My name is Sandro Cuzzetto. I am the principal CEO at Kamloops Christian School, and I'm going to talk about the BC Education Plan. I have four things that I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on what the BC curriculum has been up till now. I'm going to focus on what's missing. And then we're going to talk about what it's actually going to be starting this September 2016. Now, again, just to be clear, this is across BC, not just a Kamloops thing. Then we're going to play a little bit of a teacher role. We're going to talk a little bit about how it can affect your planning for a classroom and how it can affect your assessment. And for parents, this is important. This is what's going to be taught to your students. This is how they're going to be assessed. So let's start at what it was. Is there anything wrong with the BC curriculum as it stands right now? Well, to be completely honest, the answer is no. Nothing's broken. This change isn't made because something is broken specifically. The curriculum has been around for a very long time, and it has done exactly what it was meant to do, and that is to teach people in the industrial age how to be good citizens of a specific country. It is a factory model. It is basically where you put a whole bunch of kids together in rows and you have to control them. It's meant for control of a large classroom. Everybody learns the same stuff and everybody walks out of there with the same knowledge, and then they move into the factories and they move into what they're going to be doing, all the workplace stuff. It's meant to do it. It's not broken. This is exactly what it's doing. Now, this in front of us is the IRPs. This is the integrated resource packages up till now. The core grades, just so you can see it on the left-hand side, have all been updated. This is K to 9. They were updated 2010. But if you scroll around a little bit, you're going to see some courses that haven't been updated a lot. All right, so here's, let's highlight a couple for you. Here's two of them, Business Ed 11 and 12 and Economics 12. This integrated resource package, this is what teachers use to teach. This is the course, basically, from the Ministry of Ed. You'll notice it hasn't been updated since 1998. And this is one of my favorites, Information Technology 8 to 10. So this is computers, hasn't been updated since 1996. Now, you might be wondering, why? And that's a question to pose to yourself. Why do you think the integrated resource packages, some of them anyway, haven't been updated? Even the core K to 9, it's been 6 years. The answer is pretty simple if you think about it. You can't keep up with the information. Information changes way too quickly. If we were actually going to do a computer course and the ministry was going to update the resource packages, it'd be updating them every 3 to 6 months with new material. I have a MacBook, a brand new Apple MacBook, and there's a port on it that 2 years ago never existed. Even last year, it was not on any of the Macs. So if things change way too quickly to keep up on the integrated resource packages, to keep up on the information that you need to learn in a specific genre or a specific job-related area. Now, to give you a better sense, we're going to take a look. I completely randomly picked this one. This is the integrated resource package for grade 4 social studies. All right, so we're going to take a look at it. Here you go. This is the grade 4 social studies. It's what every grade 4 student in BC has to do. And I'm going to just show it to you page by page. So here is the first page. On the left-hand side are learning outcomes, the kind of the main things that they want students to be able to do. And on the right-hand side are suggested achievement indicators. All right. So these are indicators that can be used to see if, your student knows it. So we continue to move along the way. As you notice, it's 78 of 83 pages. 79 page. As you can see, there's a lot of things. And yes, the last page as well. Now, keep in mind, this is just social studies. So let me lay it out a little bit easier for you. There are actually 69 different objectives on the right-hand side for a grade 4 student that we could use as assessment. This is just social studies. Social studies grade 4, 69 different things. You can see why it takes, if we were just going to do even one of them every day, you'd be doing this for 2 months. And yeah, you can mix a few together and you can do some very creative things, but there's a lot of stuff. And that's what grade 4 social studies is supposed to do. So here, let's lay this out a little bit differently. Here's an example. It says on the right-hand side, this is a great way to identify the significance of selected place names in BC and Canada. And to be honest, the very first checkbox makes complete sense. Give examples of places in BC and Canada named after explorers and other prominent individuals. Now, I've been in grade 4 social studies, and I can name a limited amount. I don't think I memorized this, and it's not something that I really know well. I probably have learned the names of places in Canada and explorers mostly from other courses, but this is in grade 4. So in theory, we should be learning this in grade 4. And if it's an important thing and it's important enough to be checked off, I should probably know it. To be blunt, I don't think I know it. Give an example of places in BC and Canada. All right, let's take a look at this. If I was a teacher now, what kind of lesson would I be giving here? How would I do a lesson with this? I would probably either tell them or I would give them a textbook and say, well, here's some names of prominent explorers. I could be very creative. Here's some names of prominent explorers, and here's a map of Canada. Why don't you see which ones are, individuals? Now, okay, then comes the assessment. How would I know if a student actually could give examples of places in BC and Canada named after prominent explorers or individuals? And to be honest, we all know the answer. It would be a quiz, right, of some sort. It would be some type of paper quiz. And here you go. If you get it, look, they've learned some examples of places. And so this is the classic. This is exactly how things work. And we all have gone through this in our history of education. So here's the rationale. The rationale is we should be teaching our students stuff. They should know stuff. Everyone needs to know the same stuff because we have the curriculum and it's the same for every student. So SMART means basically you can repeat this stuff. So really, if we boil this down, to be smart in school means you can memorize things really well and plop them on a test or regurgitate them when you need to. Now, here's the main question. And we can all think of this question. We all have the same question probably in the back of our minds, and we all have the same answer. Is this really smart? Is this what it means to be smart? What's missing? This is the second thing. Well, to be honest, if I was going to answer this question, I'd say what's missing is really what it means to be smart. I don't think memorizing in itself is smart. I'll tell you a couple of stories. My wife really likes this because this is a story about her. She very smart in school. She'll say it herself. She got an A+ in automotive mechanics, 1985 or 84, whenever it was. Top of the class, A+. Can she change the oil in our car? Nope. Not at all. But she got an A+ in mechanics. She was telling me there are students in her class, C, C-, whatever it was, C+. They're ripping out transmissions in the car and replacing them. But she got the A+ in the course. So if I was just going to look at the marks, my wife should be the best mechanic in the course because the course is mechanics. Is she? No. The other guys who didn't get as high a mark are actually better mechanics. So what are we assessing here? We're assessing book smart. This one is interesting to me. This is we're sitting on a plane coming back from a holiday in Mexico. This is just this year. And we're flying home, and my wife and I are sitting next to this lovely lady, and we start talking, and we're telling her, we have 5 kids, by the way. We're telling this lady, you know what, we can go into Mexico, get away from our kids for a while and relax on the beach. And she's like, oh, that's really cool. I'm actually going to visit my family. Oh, that's interesting. I said, you're going to visit your family? Yeah, it is my son. He lives in Mexico. Oh, neat. Now I'm looking at her going, you're not Mexican. This is like blonde hair, fair complexion. And maybe, I have no idea. Families could be complicated, but I had said, oh, does your son live in Mexico? Oh, yeah, he does. Oh, so he's Mexican. No, he's not. Okay. So where's he living? Oh, right on the beach. Now, I paused there because I know there's a rule in Mexico about being able to buy property on a beach. And you're not supposed to be able to unless you're a national or you're running a business. And so I asked her, well, how can you do that? Because I didn't think you could. So she answered, well, he started a business right on the beach. Really? Oh, neat. What does he do? Well, he started an internet business. An internet business. Yeah. buying and selling of some product, and he basically bought a house there, started his company. She said he lives right off the grid, so there's no electrical. It's all solar powered. I get up in the morning, she says. I go out on this beautiful white sandy beach, and whales are cresting in the ocean. There's miles of beach. I can go for a run. He gets up, makes a coffee, goes to work for a while, comes back out, sits outside, and she said, it's just like a dream. And it came to me as she's telling me this. 10 years ago, we couldn't have taught a student to do this. As a matter of fact, this type of business might not have even existed 10 to 15 years ago. And yet here he is doing it now. I asked her, what did they do? Did he take a business course? And here's the best part of this whole thing. No, him and his wife, they're both teachers. Oh, seriously. Yeah, they're both teachers. They both quit because this company started taking off, and they just decided to do this. So 2 teachers, full-time. Yep, full-time teaching. And they dropped that whole thing to go start this. Now, to be honest, if I was in the same position, wanting to live this type of lifestyle, I think I might do the same thing. But it dawned on me, this is not something that can be taught in a classroom. It's not even an aspect of it. But why could they do it? And what made those mechanics with C's and C pluses be able to rip out transmissions where my wife, who got the A plus, couldn't? Third little story, just to nail this home. This is brand new. This is a student who graduated at our school. He just finished his computer science course up at TRU, and he had told my wife, he said, this is what he just got a job locally at a large corporation, and this was the first thing they told him. Great, welcome to the company. Now I want you to forget everything you just learned in computer science up at TRU, and we're going to teach you what you need to know. Well, then why did I just go through a Bachelor of Computer Science if everything I just learned is actually not applicable? Well, things have changed. Right? And this is the thing. What's missing is what it means to be smart. Here's my automotive mechanic picture again. You know what? Have you ever seen a carburetor here in the past 15 years in a car? Like, it doesn't exist. And even on the right, I've brought my computer science, my information technology guys, to a garage just a couple of years ago, because to be honest, mechanics, as it is on the right-hand side, is nothing but relays, switches, and computers now. And even if you use that specific model of Snap-on tool that's pictured on the right-hand side there to take a look at your car, well, it might not be the same one that you get in any other garage. So that doesn't work. You can't actually learn a specific thing anymore because it could be outdated in a month or changed. So here's what we need. What we need as schools is to focus on competencies, what students can do, not knowledge. Because to be honest, if I don't know something as everybody else does, you just look it up. As a matter of fact, to do the narration for this video, I just very quickly did a YouTube look up, and all of a sudden, now I know how to do the narration. Very simple. We would look it up. Knowledge is something we look up now. Now, there's many people who argue with this, well, we're just going to lose the ability to memorize things. That is not something I can answer. And to be honest, in the past, it's not quite been that way. We like to say that, lots of cultures have used verbal communication back and forth. And there is some truth to that. But if I can even use a First Nations example, all of the knowledge that was passed down verbally was also reinforced with dances, with songs, and with other things. And we can still do those things. I have a teacher who does memory verses, and he does them with music because that helps the students to memorize. So I don't know if things have changed that much. Will they change? I don't really know. But to be honest, I don't think it matters at this point. If information can be looked up, and that's what we do, I think what needs to happen is to focus on what students can actually do, competencies, not just knowledge. We need students who are critical thinkers, because if they can look up a whole bunch of knowledge, well, what's good knowledge and what's bad knowledge? Why would this person say this? Why would this person say that? We need critical thinkers. We need people who are creative, who can take knowledge and use it in a different way. We need students who can transfer knowledge to a new challenge. And we need students who can be socially responsible and understanding of their own responsibility to a culture and to that culture's responsibility to each other. Jobs will change, and this is what I'm finding. Smart people have to be able to change with the job, with the company. This is what companies want. So here's what it will be. The question is, what if, instead of asking students to know a whole bunch of stuff, we ask them to use what they know to do and understand something? What if they actually, instead of had to just blurt out a whole bunch of knowledge, they had to solve problems? What if it was like this?
Imagine the awesomest thing you can. like an automatic grilled cheesemaker, or a time machine, or a time machine with an automatic grilled cheesemaker. Now imagine who's going to invent it. Him? Glasses here? Whoever they are? Or maybe her? But how do kids like these become the types of people that do things like this? Maybe we should ask this guy.
Knowledge is having. Sometimes it's a limit to have new ideas. That's the problem with the old schooling, because they were teaching answers. I believe questions are probably more important today than the answers.
Erno's cube is a question waiting to be answered. And when the right person finds the right question, something amazing happens. They start seeing the world as it truly is. Not a place to be memorized, but a place to be figured out, flipped, turned, twisted, and ultimately made better, forever. Today, she may be an octopus, but help kids like her fall in love with problem solving, and they will embark on journeys to become scientists, artists, engineers, designers, inventors, or something no one's ever been before, but you can bet we're going to need. That's why moments like this, go, and this, and this, and especially this,
Oh, yeah.
are so important. Because there are companies to found, planets to walk on, time machines to invent, a future to be made amazing. We may not know what it's going to look like, but we know who's going to do it.
Thank you, Google. All right. So let's take a look at the new BC curriculum. So here's what the idea is. Now, this isn't specifically meant to actually be part of the BC curriculum, but these are some of the things that I know are key to the curriculum, or things that teachers are finding, especially myself, with respect to the curriculum. There is a lot more ability to do personalized learning in this curriculum. I can tap into the students' interests and help them to learn the things that they're interested in. The competencies are balanced with solid foundations in reading, writing, and math. Those are still core, and they have to be. As a matter of fact, as we go through this, you'll notice that if they can't read, write, or do arithmetic well, they're going to fail in everything else. Application of what students have learned to real-life situations is one of the main things that I think is key to taking this curriculum and making it applicable in our classrooms. And to be honest, I find that this curriculum is malleable. I know that it's been created in connection with different groups, and that means for myself being a part of the independent schools, we can actually stretch and move this curriculum to fit what we want to do. And I know it's the same with First Nations schools, and even in Kamloops, there's a lot of schools that are basically choice schools, tech schools, art schools. They will have the ability to take this curriculum and really morph it so that they can put their worldview or their spin on the curriculum. So let's take a look at it. All right. It's based on a know, do, and understand model. So basically, our old curriculum was know. We used to just have to know stuff. And then the teacher would have to kind of come up with the do's and the understands. This curriculum is pretty straightforward. There's big ideas, and then there's things that they do need to know, but there's also competencies, what we want students to be able to do. So let's take a look at the new social studies grade 4 curriculum. I showed you what it was, so we're going to look at this from a teacher's standpoint. Let's take a look at what it looks like now. You ready? Here it is. Ta-da! One page. Now, I know that there was a teacher, I'm sure, there's probably been many of them who looked at this and went, I can do this in a week. That's not the point. It's not the content. It's not the amount of stuff. All right. So here's the layout of it. Before there was 69. Now there is 4 big ideas, 7 things for students to be able to do, competencies within social studies, and 6 specific things to know. Now, those things to know, it's a bit of a misnomer to say there's only 6, because in the lines are many little words and things that teachers, that students should know by the time they're done. But in essence, it's way less. So how do we do this? Well, let's take a look at one. All right. So I'm going to point at the very first one on the left. The pursuit of valuable natural resources has played a key role in changing the land, the people, and the communities in Canada. All right, we'll take a look at that one. Instead of marking content, let's mark competencies. Right? And there are 6 core competencies that affect every course and every grade level in this new curriculum. Here's what competencies mean. Communication. We want students who can communicate, who can critically think, who can creatively think, who have a positive personal and cultural identity, who understand personal awareness and responsibility, and are socially responsible. These are things that I'm actually going to put into my curriculum. All right. So let's go back and make a unit plan. So we're going to pretend we're teachers at this point. So here's that big idea again. The pursuit of valuable natural resources has played a key role in changing the land, the people, and the communities in Canada. Keep in mind, as you read this, you'll probably notice this isn't something I can actually just say, here's the answer on a test, because it's not a memorized thing. You know, the pursuit of blank, and they have to fill it in. I mean, you could do that, but there's no learning in there. This is a big idea. This is an overarching thing. When they're done grade 4 social studies, students should know this to some degree. They should have struggled with this and understand that the pursuit of natural resources, valuable ones, has played a key role in changing Canada, the people, the communities, all right? Now, here's how I like to do it, and this is what we're going to be doing at our school. And again, every school can do this a little differently, and this is one of the neat things about the curriculum. It can be scary for parents because, and there are probably questions that will come up like, well, what's going to happen at university levels and things of that nature. I'll address a little bit of that, but to be honest, every school can kind of take this in a bit of a different direction because the big idea is in itself malleable. So here's how I like to do it, and here's how I'm hoping many of our teachers will start off with. I'm asking them to do a question or a problem. So go back to the Google video that we saw. Here's a couple of examples. What if I said this to students? What's the most important resource that we have in Kamloops? And what would your life be like if there was no more of that one? Right? And you could start a conversation with this. Here's another one. How can we share a country? How do people share countries? Why do people fight over things? I mean, you can get as general as you want. As a matter of fact, you can even have students come up with general questions that they're going to answer, and you can see they all fit into that big idea. Let's give the students some choice as well, not just on driving questions, but how about on presenting the knowledge? Options, to me, is a key. When I was a student, there were certain things I liked to do. And if I was able to do those things, I learned more. The times that I remember that are my favorites in high school or even in elementary was when I did things, not just sat. I don't remember sitting at a desk and looking through information in a book. But I sure remember my time where I was out with the band, playing in different spots or building something. We had to, in math, we had to build, there was this framework or form of a pyramid. And I remember reading that. And I remember looking as well at the flowers, and there was some pattern in the leaves of the flowers. Those things come to mind to me way more than sitting with a book. I don't remember the information. So you could catch what students like to do. And yeah, that takes a little time. And as a teacher, you have to learn a little bit about your students. Oh, well, if you can do that, you know you're going to be a better teacher. You're going to make more of an impact anyway. So here's a couple of examples. My kids love some things like this, and I'm talking my personal kids, especially the very last one. But video game presentations, I know my son has done one. I used to do skits at school all the time. I was in acting and band. That was my thing. Some people do like to write. They love written responses. They're good at essays. Some students like to do debates. Some students like to play games. Right? Well, why don't you do all of them together as a project? And it can be done. As a matter of fact, if you're looking, you might notice that if we're going to do them all together, you could actually create something that's fairly well known, but maybe with a bit of a spin. And why don't you even do it multi-grade and multi-subject? Yes, we can. As a matter of fact, let me introduce to you an idea that I created as I was doing this. Why don't we make the Settlers of Catan Canadian version? Why not? The pursuit of valuable natural resources played a key role in changing. So if you had a kid that actually liked playing Settlers or was into making games, this could actually become a project. Now, before I get to that game, at my school, we've changed actually our schedule to allow for teachers cross-grade to collaborate together and brainstorm projects such as this. And I know many schools will be doing it. This is one of the key things that that's important for schools, is to get their teachers together to work on things like this. And if there's no time, it's not going to happen. As the admin, that's our job. Make that happen. So how am I going to mark such a thing? Well, I'll give you some examples. If I'm looking at the pursuit of valuable natural resources, that big idea, and let's say I got some competencies, I want to know that students can use inquiry processes and skills to ask questions, to gather, interpret, analyze ideas, communicate, and maybe construct arguments defending the significance of groups or places. If this is things that I actually want my students to know, and I'll go to the right-hand side as well, there's a little bit of content. That's all of the content. Early contact, trade, cooperation, conflict between First People, European peoples, the fur trade. Believe it or not, I could actually take the first couple of these things and make a game out of this. Now, it doesn't have to be just a game. I'm using that as my example, and maybe one student will do it. But depending on the student's interests and gifts, a teacher can incorporate content and competencies into any task or project that fits. Right? So here's some examples. Teachers are all familiar with many of these. Rubrics are probably a fan favorite. Checklists of tasks, formative and summative assessment types. So formative basically means you're learning as you go. Summative would be where you present it at the end, or it's a final exam of some sort. You can have a list of tasks, each one building on the other, and you're looking for core competencies, right? Communication, critical thinking. Backwards design is a trick that I use all the time. It's a fantastic way to create unit plans. And to be honest, in backwards design, one of the biggest things is to share with your student the end product first, and then say, well, how are you going to do this? And then they have to break it down into the tasks. That's a fantastic thing. And in that, students have to know, what are they going to be able to, what must they do to complete the problem or task? So again, the rubric could be one of those things that you incorporate along with backwards design. There are many ways you can actually assess this, and that's the teacher's job. They know how to do this. We've been taught to do things like this. The problem, I think, is that we've been taught to be somewhat creative, and then we've been stuffed into a box and been forced to teach very specific things. So let's take my game thing, by the way, and let's talk about, maybe a student who thought, yeah, you know what, I'd love to do Settlers of Catan. Now, I didn't know this. There's a science in itself to gaming. There's a psychology to gaming. There's different types of gaming strategies. 0-0, like no win games. There is one winner, one loser game. There's all winner games. There's actually the psychology. And from what I remember of reading, and I'm going to tell you where I read this. This is actually in a novel that I read. So right there gives you a sense that I learned something I probably might not have remembered in a classroom, but I read it in a novel. And so that information stuck into my head. It was a fascinating novel with respect to, it wasn't even about games. It was just this person had shared this information. And one of the most popular types of games is where you have a winner, or you have a winner-loser, and usually the loser is a computer, but there's got to be a bit of randomness in the game. And so you incorporate a little bit of randomness in the game that keeps people going. Gaming in itself is a fascinating thing. And I remember sharing even during a different presentation that some of the people right now who make the best neurosurgeons are gamers, because they have to use the joysticks, and they are very good with camera angles, and they make the best pilots. They make the best neurosurgeons. So for those parents and everybody's watching who are looking at their kids playing games, don't worry, it might actually turn out okay. So let's take a look at this. How about for English? Well, you got to make a rule book. So that's language arts. You can do it in French. Now you got French content. So I'm showing you multiple curricular areas that can be addressed with this one project. For social studies, well, the whole thing is social studies, so that's not a big problem. We're going to learn all of those things. If you are an independent or a Christian school, putting a Christian worldview in is for sure easy enough with respect to the game. You can, in the cards, you can have the church card, or you can talk a little bit about different aspects. You have missionaries come in and what that does to the group or the culture, and it could be good or bad. You have the ability even in here to talk a little bit about social justice. Art, for sure, make the board game. Heck, you can even make the pieces on a 3D printer. And at our school, we have one, and it's easy enough to do. So now the kids actually doing computer-aided drafting. You can share the game with companies. The one thing about Skype or Google Hangout that's fantastic is I can Skype or Google Hangout with anybody. So I could find, I don't know, Parker Brothers. I'm sure I could probably get information with them and say, hey, I have some students who have some games, or a local game company. Why don't you come in and let them show you their game? And you could sit a little panel, they can broadcast. So now they're communicating, they're talking about their game. And if they're excited, and let's say the gaming company says that is a fantastic game, what we've done to that student is probably, we probably will never know. That student would excited about what they've done, feel confident. This was a great program. This was a great game, and I worked really hard. And these guys, these professional gamers, told me it was a good thing. You never know what they're going to come up with, what they're going to become. Having teachers collaborate together is going to allow for projects and things like this to happen. You can see there's a bunch of courses in here. If the teachers actually had some time to work together, they could continually multi-grade and multi-curricular projects together and have students interested in the learning. So in conclusion, and that's good because my voice is starting to die, to be honest, this is the most exciting time in education in the past 50 years.